I get it when you're scrolling through endless furniture options, the last thing you want is to drop a few $100s on a piece that looks great on the screen but ends up feeling out of place in your living room. You've probably imagined the perfect spot for a wine cabinet. Maybe it's the corner beside your dining table, the little nook next to the kitchen island, or the wall behind the couch where it could double as a decorative bar. The big question is whether the DINGYXIN wine cabinet light actually lives up to that vision or if it's just another pretty but impractical find. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the vibe this cabinet brings. The design leans heavily into a retro-modern aesthetic, with clean lines, a glossy finish, and those rounded corners that are meant to soften the silhouette while keeping the piece safe around kids or high-traffic areas. In real homes, that little curvature can be a lifesaver. No one wants to bump a sharp edge when reaching for a bottle during a party. It's a detail that you might overlook when you're just scrolling, but when you actually have guests moving around, it becomes a subtle but genuine plus. Now, the capacity. The product description highlights large capacity storage, and that's not just marketing fluff. In my own test setup, I was able to line up 8 standard 750 ml bottles on each of the 2 shelves, plus a few smaller carafes on the top ledge. That adds up to roughly 20 bottles without cramming them in. For a couple who enjoys a modest collection, say a few reds, a white, maybe a sparkling for celebrations, that's more than enough. It also means you can keep your favorite bottles within arm's reach, turning a simple dinner into a mini wine tasting experience without having to shuffle through a cramped pantry. One of the selling points the brand pushes is the built-in lighting. The subtle LED strip runs along the interior, giving the bottles a soft glow that makes the whole cabinet feel like a mini showcase. In a dimly lit dining area, that illumination does double duty. It's functional so you can see what you have at a glance, and it adds a warm, inviting ambience. I tried it during a low-light dinner party, and the effect was genuinely pleasant, not garish. The light is also dimmable via the touch sensor on the front, which means you can tone it down when you're watching a movie or turn it up when you want to make a statement. Let's be honest about the downsides, because every piece has a trade-off. The biggest one is that this cabinet is purely a storage and display unit. There's no temperature control, no humidity regulation. If you're a serious collector who needs to keep bottles at a precise 55°F or wants to store vintage reds for decades, this isn't the place. It's more of a showcase than a cellar. That's not a flaw if you're just looking for a stylish spot to keep everyday drinking wines, but it's a hard line to draw for anyone with a larger, more temperature-sensitive inventory. Another practical consideration is the weight and assembly. The cabinet arrives flat-packed, and while the instructions are straightforward, you'll need at least 2 adults to lift and secure the panels. The final product weighs around 70 pounds, so it's not something you'll want to move around once it's in place. If you rent or anticipate rearranging your space frequently, think twice. The solid wood veneer looks high-end, but it's still a veneer over MDF, so you'll need to be gentle with any heavy loads on the top shelf. Don't stack a tower of cookware there, for instance. Who should definitely consider this cabinet? If you're a casual wine enthusiast who enjoys opening a bottle with friends on the weekend, love a little ambient lighting, and want a piece that blends into a modern or retro decor without screaming utility, the DINGYXIN wine cabinet light hits the sweet spot. It also works well for people who need a multifunctional storage unit. Say, you want to keep a few coffee mugs, bar tools, and a small stack of glasses in the same footprint. The rounded corners, LED lighting, and sleek finish make it look equally at home in a home bar, a kitchen pantry, or even a hallway entryway where you can stash keys and mail. Who might want to skip it? First, serious collectors who need climate control. This cabinet won't protect your wines from temperature swings. Second, anyone living in a tiny apartment where floor space is at a premium. The cabinet's footprint is roughly 3,018 inches, and you'll need clearance around it for the doors to swing open fully. Lastly, if you're on a shoestring budget, remember that you're paying for design and lighting, not for heavy-duty construction. There are cheaper, no-frills wine racks that will hold more bottles for less money, but they won't have the same visual impact. On the upside, the multi-use claim holds water. I used the bottom shelf for wine.